I was at the nursery a couple days ago, and I happened to walk through the section where they have a lot of the supplies for, gardening. And I noticed they had stacks and stacks of these trays. What are they, the 1050 trays or something like that? And a few people were there buying these and buying the little cells that go in here. It's, you put the 72 cells or whatever in here, and it sits in here in the tray. This is the tray that just collects the water when you water them and stuff like that. Now, I have a bunch of these, and the reason why I have them is because a lot of people have given them to me. I don't think I've ever specifically gone out and bought these trays. If you've watched my channel before, you'll notice that I do use these once in a while, but only because I have them. And it's actually dwindling. I'm getting less and less because, see, the sun breaks them down, and actually just even using them, they get broken. And so I don't like using these. And at the nursery, I forgot to mention too that they were $3.99 each. $3.99 for this little cheap plastic tray. I just don't like these, and I'll give you a few reasons why. Number one, well, they're $3.99. I think that's just overpriced for something so flimsy and so, I don't know, short-lived. Second reason, they're short-lived. I mean, you can probably use these for 3 or 4 years, maybe, if you're careful with them. And then the UV light starts to get to them, and they just break. I mean, and look at how flimsy they are. Another reason, look how, they're just, you put a bunch of these, like say I've got, like 10 of these on here, and I've watered these, and they're heavy, and trying to carry it around with, forget that. So I don't like these. They're cheap, they don't last, and they're not cheap, they're expensive. They're cheap quality. And they just don't last. And so once they're wasted, they just go into the landfill. They're going to be around for the rest of eternity. Now, these are a little bit better. I was given these as well, and these are a little bit stiffer, but still they're plastic. And these are kind of nice because when I transplant from small plants into these, they can stay in here until they're ready to go into the garden. So that's kind of a plus. But still, this has a couple cracks in it, and I've had this for a few years. I've used it, and but it's not very much longer for the world, I think, because it's it's starting to break. But again, plastic, and when you do toss it, it's just landfill material. So I don't use those. And see, I've got a lot of these pots here like this, even these little plastic ones. I don't usually use these, but the problem is that I've had a lot of people that are also growers, a lot of friends, and they will bring stuff up to me, and sometimes I'll come home and they've brought it up to the top of the driveway and just left it at the top of the driveway because they just don't want them anymore. So like this one here, somebody brought blueberries, and they saved the pots, and there's a bunch of them here. I don't know what half of these are. These are perennials. I don't know what the heck it was. But anyways, I've got like a couple hundred of these, and behind this shed, it's all shaded all day long. And so I keep them behind that shed, and so they're away from the UV light and they don't break down. But I try to reuse these, and the best I can, but I don't like them. I don't like to use them, but because they're just, I understand nurseries have to sell them in something. They can't sell them in paper. They can't just hand somebody a plant, right? They need something to put them in, but I don't use these too much. Now, sometimes when I have my plant sales, if I have some plants that are actually getting pretty large, then I'll go ahead and put them in this. Like sometimes, at the end of the sale, some of my tomatoes are getting really big, so I'll transplant them into something like this. And then when, of course, somebody takes one, then they'll take this, and I'll just tell them, it's not blueberries, right? But now, what I do buy are these here that I've bought in the past. Haven't bought them in quite a few years, haven't needed to. But these little pots here, little 4-inch. Now, these are kind of nice. Now, they are plastic, but here's the deal. They're tough plastic. They're pliable. See, they bend. They're pliable, so they're not subjected to UV light as much. And so I haven't had any of these actually break down because of the light. Now, what I use these for is for like plant sales. So if I'm planting my tomatoes, they start out in little cups, and then they move to something larger, and then they go into here for their final resting place until they're sold. And I can put you know, the tomatoes can be a good, you know, 6-8 inches in this little pot when I sell it. And the beauty of these is when I do happen to sell these, they're all locals. And so I ask them, I say, you know, if you happen to be in the neighborhood, if you know, I would really appreciate it if you just throw these into your car, and if you happen to come by, if you drop them off, I'd like to reuse them. So they really appreciate that. So 75% of the people that I've given these to, they've returned them no problem. So it's kind of nice, and I think that they appreciate the fact that I'm trying to reuse. So as far as plastic pots and things like that, and commercial items, this is pretty much all that I buy, and I haven't bought them in years. I've got quite a few hundred of these. I mean, so anyways, that's all I buy. But when it comes to plastic stuff like that, I stay away from it. I don't buy it. What I do also buy, I think you guys have probably, if you watch my channel, you've seen me use these, right? These, what they are is they're a 3-ounce cup, and they're paper. And there's, in here, there's 200 cups in this little package, and it was only a few dollars. And so these little paper cups, they're kind of nice because being paper, they can go right into the compost. So I write on here, I can write on what the plant is, you know, when I just start my seeds in these. And I plant them, you know, I plant my seeds in, and then by the time these are ready to come out of here, these are starting to biodegrade already. They're starting to, you know, pull apart, which is perfect because then this goes right into the compost pile. It's recycled and reused, or not reused, but recycled, and it goes right back to dirt. So I have no problem with buying these. Now, I don't use these all the time. There are other things that I use too. Let me explain. For instance, I like to reuse these. You guys know about these. These are the mushroom containers. And in here right now, these are my sweet Spanish onions. And they're not all come up yet, but this will be completely saturated. So I just put a few holes in the bottom here, and then I set them into a tray, and I'll show you the tray in a second. So these are my Spanish Utah onions. And look, you can put hundreds in here. And so I reuse those. I don't need the little cells. And then what happens, these will stay in here until they're like this tall or so when they're ready to go into the garden. So I don't have to worry about buying plastic pots. And we use a lot of mushrooms. We buy probably 2 of these a week. And so I reuse all of those, and they will last. They're much stronger. They'll last for years. I got some that are probably 5-6 years old. And then I also use these here. Now these are plastic, yes they are, but these are croissant containers. If you've seen my channel before, you'll know I reuse these. Now you're probably thinking, well, Tom, these are plastic. They are. But here's the deal. I didn't go out and buy these specifically for planting or for using in the garden or the greenhouse. I already bought these, and so it's, I'm just reusing what I've already got. And I don't buy too many of these. Like, I haven't bought croissants in probably 2 months. But I do have like 7 or 8 of these over the last year or 2 that I bought. And they come with this little dome, which makes a great little, little kind of like mini greenhouse. Like when I've got one of these, one of these full with these little cups here, I can put a whole bunch of these, like 12 or so in here. And I put the little dome on here, and then they will germinate in here a lot better. And so I like these little things, but I reuse those year after year. They seem to last for quite a while. And also, I didn't mention with these here, the problem with these is that with these trays, they have these cells, right, that you put like 72 in here, and they're all connected together. They do have them where there's 6 connected to each other. So, which is like, what, 12, 6, I don't know. It's kind of, but the deal is that the problem was when you get those cells that are all connected together, if you want to take some out that have already germinated, like they don't all germinate at the same rate. So you've got some like saran wrap over this, and then some of them are starting to germinate. Well, you can't take the saran wrap off because you got a bunch in here that haven't germinated yet. So you got to try to find out how to separate those cells. Well, with these cups, you don't have to worry about that. So with the cups in their own little, their own little container, then if these are covered, when they germinate, I can just take the cover off, take that one out. That one's ready to be put in the sun, and then I can continue on. So that's another downside to those trays. Also, what I like now, Also what I like to use is like, see this here, this is almond milk. I drink almond milk. So what I do is I reuse these. I just cut like 3 or 4 inches, you know, from the bottom, cut those off. And then I've got some nice little growing containers here where I've got my Kelsey onions started. This will hold hundreds of them. And again, these will stay in here until they're ready to go into the garden. So no need for little cells, no need for any trays. Now you're probably wondering, what do I put besides these? What do I put my plants on? Well, here's the deal. When I go to the thrift store, I don't go to the thrift store. A lot of people go to like these different sections. I go right to the kitchen section. And what I do is I go to these, the tray section here. And I pick up these metal cookie trays. I've got cookie trays. This one was $1. This one was a little more, it was $2.29, but this will last forever. I can put what, maybe 6 of these in here, you know, or maybe 8 in there of these cups. And so this is what I use. I've got that one there. This one here was $1.50 for that one. That's a nice size one. Here's a real heavy one. This looks like some kind of a biscuit pan or something. This was $1. I mean, I go to the thrift store, and this one was a little more, but this is really heavy, $2.29. This one was $1. You can see the little sticker there, $1. $1, another $1. So, I mean, oh, this one here is kind of funny. This one here, it looks like it's a tray for like under a broiler or under a stove or something. And this thing is really hard. This, if you get whacked with this is dangerous. And so I went up to the front with a couple of them, and I asked about this one. She says, I don't even know what that is, and there was no price. So she just gave it to me. She goes, here, take that. So I was thrilled. Here's another one for $1. Right? This thing is going to last forever. So you've got here these at the nursery for $3.99 and $1. $3.99, $1. Yeah, okay. It's maybe 2 inches shorter. Whoopie-doo. So this one's going to last a couple years. This one will last the rest of my stinking life. So, and then probably, who knows how many lives after that. And here's another one. This one was $2.29. But look at this thing. This thing is, I mean, it's heavy. It's heavy. So now you're probably going to say, well, okay, with these, you can buy the little domes and put the dome on them. And but then again, you got to buy the domes. How much are the domes? And they don't last. That's a couple years. With these here, I put my cups on here, and then I take a little piece of saran wrap and put a little piece of saran wrap on it, and it lasts. I mean, it's just as good as any other dome. So, and in the past, you guys have seen where I actually made a plexiglass cover. And so I take one of these, and I take a little plexiglass cover and just put the plexiglass on there. That way I'm not reusing plastic. If you don't like using saran wrap, I get it. I understand that. Also, what I do is if you don't want to buy these cups, and they're only a few dollars, and I get it, but I don't use just these, because I do a lot of, you know, dense sowing like this. It's where I don't need to plant individually. I plant them densely. So if you don't want to use these, what you do is you just save yourself all of your toilet paper and your paper towel rolls. So if you take one of these toilet paper rolls and you cut it in half, then you're looking at about the same size as one of these cups. Just like that, see? And so, yeah, it has an open bottom, but that's okay. It's sitting on a tray. So it sits on the tray, and the tray acts as the bottom. So, and you can still write on the side here what it is. So save all your toilet paper and your paper towel rolls. And paper towels, you can probably get like 5 or so out of this one. And so you've got, you know, growing there. And also, I buy my oatmeal in these cardboard containers. It has a, you know, paper wrapping around it. But these are really nice because it comes with a little plastic ring around the top, but I just pulled that off. But I can cut this in half, and then I've got one that has a bottom and one that doesn't. But these will sit in the tray, and they, you know, my plants can stay in here. Like if I put tomatoes in here, they can stay in here until they're ready to go into the garden. They get pretty large. And the cardboard does start to break down, but once I plant my tomatoes, guess what? Right into the compost pile. No problem. And then lastly, I use watering cans, but I use some really big ones around the property here. And so, you know, where I don't have the hose going. When I want to, like sometimes I have some remote plants, and I have some big watering cans. But inside the greenhouse, there's no reason to actually have to go out and buy a watering can. If you have a small area, just go out and get yourself one of these. This is just like a juice container or whatever. This was 50 cents at Goodwill. 50 cents for a watering can. And also this one too has a large opening for pouring a lot of water, and then it has these little zigzags to where I can just, you know, restrict the flow. And so I just, you know, for my little seedlings, just pour out a little bit. So that's 50 cents. No need to go out and buy a watering can. That works perfectly fine. And there's quite a few other things that I do that I just can't think of right now, but I'll probably do another video on kind of being frugal. But that's what I do. I don't go out and buy unnecessarily all this plastic stuff that's just going to end up being tossed. I would rather reuse stuff that I already have, and specifically like these trays. You know, if I happen to think about it, I'll stop at the thrift store, Goodwill. Now, actually, you might even go to the dollar store, because this was $1, right? But at the dollar store, what's $1.25 now? But they probably have stuff as well. As long as it's made out of good metal, I think you're good to go. Even if it starts to rust, you know, which these haven't gotten. They got grease spots on them from probably people baking cookies. But even if they start to get a little rust on them, even when something starts rusting like this, you've got years and years. You got 20 years before it rusts through, I think. So it just, and also too, part of gardening is there's a lot of reasons why we garden, but one of the main reasons is to save money. And so I certainly don't want to be buying plastic trays every year and then just sucking up my cash when I have these forever. And so, you know, we garden because we know where our food comes from, of course, and the food tastes better, and we can, you know, pick different varieties and whatnot, and we do it for our sanity. But yeah, saving money, that's a big thing for me, and I just don't like throwing money out the window. So I thought I would just do this video and show you guys, and hopefully it'll kind of give you some ideas about how you can save some money when you're gardening. All right? Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and hit the bell so you'll get notified when I do upload a new video. Okay? We'll catch you guys later.